Hi, my name is Jason Bunn Parsons, and many of you recognize me from various autism videos that I've done over the years. And last May 30th, 2020, I did a video talking about how I have gotten myself off public assistance, gotten a job in off public assistance, and all the people that have been involved in helping me. And two of those people are with me right now, Pastors Len and Sharon Griffin of Covenant Grace Church. And I do know that a lot of autistics aren't Christian, they're not religious. I understand that, but nevertheless, if you're going to just completely discount, the existence of God, then you must recognize, logically speaking, that that it must be the methodologies that they utilize and mindsets that they embrace that I benefited from, and you should therefore be able to go ahead and mimic these same programs, and you should, in theory, get the same results. But nevertheless, there is a bigger issue, when coming down to people who actually flat out have so much hatred towards the church that they will refuse to receive help from the church. Okay, and I'm not going to get into big long dysentery about this. All I'm going to do is point out the fact that, based on my experiences in the autism community, and also just looking on Facebook and seeing how anybody who advocates their religious, political, social, ideological beliefs, the people that are spending the most time advocating this are also the most focused on all that they hate, to the point where they completely disregard the positives, and they even start inventing new reasons to hate. And a couple of good examples from the autism community itself comes from a book called Neurotribes, which literally slanders Dr. Leo Connor, who was the gentleman who first coined the term autism back in 1943. Okay, I'm not going to go into a long rebuttal of that. I will be doing that later on in a video that that deals with the history of autism. I'm actually going to be updating it, because now I just found out that that people are now slandering Dr. Asperger, who's recognized as the ones that recognize the high functioning aspects of autism, and that, again, it's a big long explanation, which I will deal with at another time. But here's the problem, I've just seen this over and over again, where once somebody, whether you're talking about the Tempe group that I first started with, or even my own Tuesday night support group, okay, we clearly state that it is a self-improvement group, but every so often we get these people trying to hijack it by wanting to make it all about, oh, the autism organization doing this, neurotypicals are doing that. It's like, okay, well, if you want to discuss that, that's what the fourth Thursday night meeting is for. If they don't show up to the fourth Thursday night meeting, they come and they try to hijack my meeting. Okay, and once they start on it, start hating on neurotypicals and hating on the autism organizations, everybody else in the group starts diving in as well, and it turns into a lynch mob, and also people that insist that autistics cannot improve their quality of life until their political agenda is the law of the land. Okay, and it's like, okay, well, I'm 50 years old right now, 51 years old, and if it takes 20 years for your political agenda to become law of the land, I'll be 71 years old, and I'm a little old to really benefit from all of these changes that you want to make. So why don't I just go ahead and make changes right now, in order to improve my quality of life, which is exactly what I did. And that's the reason why I'm the one that's giving a testimony about how not only that I have improved my life, but showing people how they can improve their lives, where these other people who are just so obsessed with all the things that they hate, that's all that they can talk about is their hate. They cannot that they cannot give encouragement. They cannot help autistics build their self-confidence and self-esteem so that they can then turn around and exceed the expectations of of the world around them. And so so Len and Sharon, would you like to chime in about anything I just said up to that point?
Well, let me start by saying, Jason, we're happy to be sharing this platform with you, and you've given us a great opportunity just to talk about our own experience in your life and your experience with us and with our church and many of the people of our church, and what a positive thing it has been over the years. And we want to advocate whatever role we have played in helping you move down the road towards your financial independence and your freedom from having to rely on government support, that comes from a place of just a community of people that really want to serve those who have needs in their lives, whatever those needs may be, whether it's in the mental health community or poverty issues, racial issues, economic injustice. We're just a church that is called to serve the hurting and the needy, and so that's what we've tried to do.
Right.
Now,
So
go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So the other group of people that I do want to to address is the churches, because after one of the reasons why I left your church the second time was because I wanted to, you're a small church, and so you don't have the ability to have 5,000 different ministries. And and I hooked up with Johnny and Friends, which is a ministry that teaches churches how to meet the needs of people with disabilities. And I was trying to find a church that had a functioning Johnny and Friends ministry, which unfortunately very few of the churches still do. And so when I was talking to their church liaison, she told me that there are a number of churches out there that that's a number of people that parents of autistic children have told them that a lot of churches have actually asked them to leave because of them being afraid of their autistic child. And it comes down to the stigmas, which is a subject of of other videos I'll be doing. But nevertheless, so one of the important things that that we're also going to be discussing is the fact that I did participate in with the church and made valuable contributions. And I'm not the only officially diagnosed autistic that did that. We talked a little bit earlier about Daniel, who was in his early 20s years ago, and he did help out as an usher. Yes, he played a small support role, but he did play that role, and he did enjoy himself. Okay, and so for to back up a little bit about what led me to come to your church the first time. I had actually just relocated to your side valley. I'd previously been going to your sister church, Word of Grace, which you're longtime friends with Pastor Kinnerman and Bob and Chris, and so
Right.
so that was a major reason why I started coming to your church shortly after moving to this side of the valley. But yeah, I came over to this side of the valley because I had to move in with my younger brother, and I don't think they were married yet. Yeah, I think that they were still living boyfriend girlfriend. But anyways, because I was having another cycle of financial hardships, which because I hadn't been diagnosed with autism at that time, I didn't know which jobs I should have been pursuing. And so I was pursuing all the wrong jobs, and again, that's subject of other videos, and so when I came over here, to Covenant of Grace Church, from Word of Grace Church, basically, I was, somebody that was financially struggling, and trying and just looking for a place where I could fit in, because that, as an autistic, that is one thing that we do, have difficulties with, and even though Word of Grace did have a lot of good ministries, and I actually brought up New Wine, in the previous video, nevertheless, moving over to the other side of the valley and having to restart all over again, that's something that autistics aren't that good at doing. And so, just finding, ways to begin contributing again, so that way, I could be focusing on the good that I was contributing, rather than just focusing on, okay, here I'm in another financial crisis again and again and again, and so that's one of the reasons why it's so important for me to be involved in your guys' New Wine, and then later with the ESL class that Sharon was the director of. Later on, you handed off to other people, but so as far as my role in the in the English class, would you like to talk from your perspective as far as my contributions to that?
I don't know that you mentioned what New Wine was. New Wine was a 12-step program, and so you were involved with it. So
I mentioned that in so many previous videos. I forgot that I haven't mentioned in this one yet. But anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah, and if you remember, when you came to the church, you had not yet been diagnosed, so you didn't know, and we didn't know either what was happening, But as in all churches, you use and minister with and become a team with all kinds of people, and so it wasn't that much different than if you had a diagnosis for us, because we would have worked with you anyway. But we had a ministry in ESL classes, and you were an early part of that. You did teaching in the adult classes, but also you were very effective in the children's classes. That's one thing I remember, and all the kids loved you, and it was challenging sometimes. It's challenging enough with regular one. When you throw in kids that don't even speak English, their parents don't speak English, it's quite challenging.
One of my favorite all-time stories, at the very beginning, because I was basically a floater. If you needed me up there to help with the adults, I help with the adults. If you needed me to work with the kids, I worked with the kids. But anyways, so early on, half our class were Vietnamese, the other half were Somalis. Okay, and so what's that?
And the Sudanese too. Yeah.
Sudanese later.
Yes.
Okay. I'm talking about very, very beginning. Sudanese did come later, but very, very beginning. Half of our students were Somalis, the other half were Vietnamese. So here I have all these children, and prior over at Word of Grace, I had worked in their early childhood department, and their early childhood director, Lisa Rattan, did a great 7-week training course, and then put us under mentors, so that way we could learn about redirecting children, using your words to redirect children. And so here I'm trying to redirect these children that don't know enough English in order to to actually use the proper format. And so it was a little bit stressful. And so one night, that there was a couple of Vietnamese, I think they're actually brother and sister. They might have been brother and sister. And so when you hear what happened, like, they have to be brother and sister. But the boy, 2-year-old boy, reached over and grabbed a crayon literally out of the girl's hand, and so I went over and I just went, need to stop, and I just put my hand between the two. I never made physical contact, just need to stop, okay? And by the way, for those who know sign language, this is a sign for stop. And so I kind of integrated that. But anyway, so this boy, he's like, okay. And when he did that, I realized he was mimicking me, okay? Because, whenever I would get stressed, that's one thing, just take a deep breath, go, okay. And that's what I would do. And this boy mimicked me, and I was like, is he mocking me? No. He stopped being what I wanted him to stop doing, and so I literally didn't know how to respond, so I just walked away. But it's a great example that kids learn by what we do, more by than what we say. Because it really was hilarious, to see him, mimicking me. It really showed, who I was as a teacher.
Yeah.
But and how important that stress management technique had become, for me, that I didn't even realize I did that much, to where a 2-year-old would pick up on it and would mimic it. So anyway, but
let me
go ahead.
Let me mention this about those early days too, because I think in many ways it really worked to your advantage and our advantage, that you didn't know and we didn't know that you had this autism issue in your life, because you were coming just as any other church member. So we didn't have a preconceived idea of what your limitations might be. We just assumed that you had gifts, you had training. We knew that you came from a church that we were very familiar with, and they gave you a good recommendation. So we were comfortable taking you in and into a leadership role fairly early in your involvement. So that helped you get established, and it helped us get established with a history with you. Over time, obviously, as our relationship developed, there were certain clues and things that made us realize that something was going on in your life. But we were committed to you, you were committed to us, and so that relationship of mutual love and acceptance really went a long way towards helping us work together. So when you finally come out with that diagnosis, it's like, oh, okay, now that helps us understand a lot of things. But we already knew your capabilities and your potential before you had that diagnosis.
Also, the other thing was that it was a really good place for you to start, because the refugee population was so thankful. They were so appreciative of anybody who would love on them and spend time and teach them how to speak English. And I know you did a lot of other things too for the families. And so they were so appreciative of that. And that's a great atmosphere to start in.
And so to respond to both of your points, okay, I don't know if you remember this, the first night that I showed up to volunteer at the English class was also the first night that I'd become homeless, okay, because of, again, my financial difficulties and also being hung out to dry by an irresponsible roommate. Long story, but bottom line is when I showed up there, I literally rationalized in my mind that I could either go to the city park and spend the entire night feeling sorry for myself, or I could go and actually, no, the first night that I was homeless, okay, was when we were doing that youth conference. We invited this youth group from out of state to come and do this youth conference, and so I helped out there in it, and one of those nights, one of the Somali families, had showed up that they didn't know about the conference, and that it actually preempted the English class. But anyway, so that they were all standing in front of the big map, the wall map that you guys used to have. What was that thing, like 20 feet by 30 feet? It was about as big a wall map as you can buy from the store. And so they were gathered around there, and a couple of these youngsters who were part of this visiting troops, like, are those Muslims? Oh, let's go meet them. And so that they were just so excited to meet these people, and that the Somali family was just so thrilled to have these people. They were thrilled to meet them, and I thought, these are some really nice people. Maybe I'd like to, go involve myself. And so that's how I actually got started, working with the English class. So, and then as far as, talking about, how easily it is for me to connect, with the refugees, the fact the fact is, the great thing, and I've said this many times, every time I bring up the subject of refugees, okay, the fact is they didn't know there was anything different about me because they didn't know what a typical American was. And by the time they did figure out, and some of them actually did, tell me that there is definitely something different about you, and we not sure what to make of it. By that time, they didn't care because they were so appreciative. The fact that I would help out. And so when we're talking about, working, with refugees, my most recent work with refugees, actually second most recent, my most recent English class was working with the Area Agency on Aging, okay, and they had a citizenship class for people that were 55 or older, okay, and so and so part of the citizenship class was first teach them English so they can understand the citizenship material, and so that's what I did. So there are plenty of opportunities. The refugees are brought over by sponsoring agencies, and so if you find out which agencies are sponsoring these people, you can get signed up to help with them. So again, if you're not into helping out at churches, there are still avenues to work with a group of people that aren't even going to notice that you're different and aren't going to care by the time they do figure out that you're different. So
right.
And one of the things I've over the years is that people who have areas of their life or issues in their life that they struggle with oftentimes develop a greater sensitivity to other people who have issues and problems. Families and individuals that grow up and it seems like they have their act together, they can kind of get all caught up in their normalcy, so to speak. And then they forget that there's a lot of people that need help. They need a hand up. They need encouragement. They need just a little bit of assistance now and then. But oftentimes those people are the least willing to offer their time or their resources. But people who have needs in their life often are the most willing to also give, even out of their need, whether it's time or resources. And so that's always been a quality we've admired about you, that you've always been willing to give up your time and whatever resources you have to help people in need in their life, whatever that need may be.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about you saying about that, because you just contradicted the DSM-5's diagnostic criteria for autism, because part of the diagnostic criteria is that I'm supposed to lack emotional reciprocity, fancy word for saying I lack empathy, that I'm not supposed to have the capacity to care for other people, which is complete bunk. Okay,
well,
and like
I'm always happy to contradict the DSM.
Anyway, but that's the thing is that and I'm not the only autistic that that has shown empathy towards other life forms, particularly dogs, cats. That an autism meeting is the second largest gathering of animal lovers that you're going to find outside of a PETA meeting. Seriously, we all love animals. We all get disgusted when we hear about these animal abuse stories. And so we have plenty of empathy for them. Why don't we have empathy for people? Well, wait a minute. People bully us. Some people bully us. Not all, but it's actually a fringe minority. But that fringe minority has such an impact. And again, this isn't just limited to autism and autistics. Anybody that's physically or emotionally abused is going to have consequences. There are going to be consequences to that. And they're going to be a lot less friendly toward other human beings. And so if you want us to have more empathy, maybe you should treat us better. Anyway, so
you're saying it's just a basic human condition.
Right.
Anybody has that, but also anybody can be healed from that. Anybody can develop that kind of empathy and care for other people.
And again, though, it gets back to how I started off talking about people that get so obsessed about all the things that they hate to the point where they refuse to even acknowledge the good stuff that is happening. it's because of Dr. Connor and Dr. Asperger that we have the that we have the current understanding of autism, instead of people believing that we're schizophrenic, that we're feeble-minded, that we're all these. This is all the concepts that people had about us back in 1943 and continued on until 1980, because they did not accept Dr. Connor's findings until the DSM-3, which came out in 1980. So for 37 years they rejected Dr. Connor's views of us, but eventually they accepted his views. They accepted Dr. Asperger's, and things are better because of it. And yes, I'm still very dissatisfied with a lot of things, but I don't obsess with that. I hope the fact that I grew up in 70s and 80s, and they didn't understand anything about me. I was just somebody with 140 IQ, so obviously I was smart enough to to figure out why I was being bullied. So if I didn't want to be bullied, then I would stop doing what's causing them to bully me. So I just want negative attention. Okay, that was 70s and 80s. Okay, and so yeah, we have made progress. And
Jason,
go ahead.
I think I'm pretty sure you're the first person I ever heard use the term neurotypical or neuroatypical. And so that was an eye-opener for me to think about the issues that autistics have, and other issues for that matter, through a different lens or a different framework. And I think as I've watched your life, one of the qualities I see about you is that you've never held yourself hostage to your diagnosis. You've never accepted that because you are this, therefore you can't do that, or because you have this issue, here are the problems you're going to have, here are your limitations, here's what you'll never overcome. And you have chosen to push back on that, and as a result, at the place where you are right now, where you are just on the verge of becoming free from government's subsidy for your financial well-being, and you're able to carry yourself in this world and support yourself. So you've made huge accomplishments over the years. I think a lot of it goes to not being held prisoner of your diagnosis.
Yeah, and thank you. And so another issue that that did come up from time to time is one that actually demonstrated just a few minutes ago in this video is when I'm explaining things, I'm often redundant. I wind up being long-winded a lot of times because I'm being redundant, say the same thing over and over again. And actually, what's happens is a lot of times I have multiple ways of saying things come on my mind all at once. I can't make up my mind of which one, of how to actually say it. So I start saying it one way, then I say, no, I don't actually like the direction it's going. So I just abruptly stop and go a completely different direction. And so when I'm in a Bible study, a larger Bible study, which everybody else would like to contribute as well, it did cause some challenges. Nobody ever got angry with me or scolded me, but at the same time, one or two people that did come up and did talk to me about working on being more concise with my explanations and just bringing to my attention of how I do need to adjust in order that other people can have the same opportunity to contribute their ideas and their input at the same time. And so
and I think one of the keys to that is that you have been willing to accept people encouraging you in something like that, and
when recognizing that they mean well.
Right,
yes.
Exactly.
Mean well, in distinguishing the difference between them and the bullies that just simply ridiculed me just because they ridicule. That's just what they want to do. So.
Yeah, like I have an example of that. You're passionate, which is great, and but sometimes when you're really passionate about something, really intense about it, you can be real intense, right? And
my volume goes up.
Your volume goes up. And I know throughout the years, especially in the classes, sometimes, or talking in groups, sometimes we'd have to just say, Jason, and then you would immediately get the cue, and then you would know to lower your voice. So, I mean, you were so.
And I told everybody to just go ahead, do like this. If I get a little loud, just do like this. I understand. I won't be offended. Or like this, bring down knob. So yeah, so yes, that was a result of me advocating for myself, understanding that yes, I did have this attribute that was problematic in certain situations. And so I just simply explained to people that, okay, if I'm doing this, this is what you need to do to let me know to bring my volume down a little bit. So yeah, so that's a result of effective self-advocacy.
Yeah, and it's the same with everyone. I mean, we all have these areas that we need one another in. And we do it if Lenard, for instance, starts talking really a long time and I have something to say, I just give him a little cue, and vice versa,
She has sharp elbows.
So everybody has that, and everybody needs cues from one another to navigate.
I remember one time, you were Lenard, you were doing a sermon, and you made a comment that that it's that you don't need people to tell you what your flaws are. You have a wife for that, and I immediately spoke up and oh shoot, now no, I was the one that actually basically I said something along the lines of if we want to know what your flaws were, we'd just ask your wife. Yeah, something along those lines. And so then at the time, Sharon was a city bus driver, and she happened to drive the same route that I would take to go see my mom. And so when I got on the bus, I told her about that. She laughed and she said, "But if I do that, then he's going to turn around and tell you all my bad stuff. So it's probably a good idea that I don't do that." But anyways, so yeah.
That happened because the truth is she doesn't have any faults. And if you believe that, I have some waterfront property I want to show you too.
So anyways, but yeah, that's when we're talking about why I was able to be successful at so many things that I did with Covenant of Grace. Yeah, my ability to self-advocate, and even before I got my diagnosis, and I knew about my loud voice, and so yeah, but even when I came back in 2010, by the time I showed up, I had been attending a monthly meeting, autistic support group for 5 months, and is co-organized by Sue Galbach, who's a now retired occupational therapist, and Tara Marshall, who's a speech language pathology assistant, both of whom are autistic, and so they understand autism from both a personal and professional point of view. So by the time I did show up, I did have some capacity to explain myself, to you, as far as what I learned up to that point. And again, that's one of the things, that we have these weekly readings, at my Tuesday nights group, and one of the members is annoyed that we have to read it every week, but it's something we have to remind ourselves over and over again. And the gist of it is that we are responsible for understanding ourselves, so we can then explain ourselves to other people. And that the other part is that give people the benefit of the doubt that they mean well. Okay, even if they do make mistakes. So that's the gist, of that portion of the reading is to remind autistics that we do need to do that. Assume that the person means well, and if you can just simply explain yourself to them, the vast majority of people will be cooperative. There are a few jerks that absolutely won't, but you can't do much about that. Just focus on the people, the vast majority of the people that will be, supportive of you if you can simply explain yourself and how you can actually function, not just how you malfunction. That's the problem with a lot of autistics. All they can do is talk about how they malfunction. They can't actually explain how they actually function, so they can be involved with projects and be effective in those projects by doing things that they're good at doing. And so,
right. And I think that's an important point, because people that are autistic or other disabilities, if that's not the politically correct word any longer, I know, but you understand what I'm saying. A lot of times they are either rejected or misunderstood because of their issues, and that eats away at their self-confidence, and so they're reluctant to branch out and try things because they assume they're just going to be rejected all over again. And that's unfortunately a tragic circle that propagates itself.
Yeah.
But that's, you mentioned earlier that there's a great deal of ignorance, and there still is a great deal of ignorance among the broad population about what autism is, because it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. There's a broad panoply of symptoms, and not everybody is the same. You have high functioning autistics and others that not so high. And so it's easy for people who don't understand that to just sort of pigeonhole everyone in the same box.
Well, the biggest thing I think society in general is ignorant about is what we are capable of doing. Okay, and we can be taught to overcome if we're given a safe environment, and that an emotionally safe environment, and that actually started over at Word of Grace with the New Wine program. It was a safe place where I could talk honestly, about my situation and get feedback from people that cared, and oh yeah, they're kind of messed up themselves, so who are they to cast stones at me? So that laid a good foundation for me to later come to your church, and already having positive experience with one group of people that I now refer to as neurotypicals, which makes it easier for me to reach out to that new group, okay, which was your church. So.
Yeah, one thing I think that that makes it especially easy for people who have autism and other people in churches is that our very theology assists in receiving people and helping them, because we truly believe that God has given people gifts, and they have gifts. All of us, we have gifts that we believe He has given us. And so part of the role of the church is to help everyone find out what their God-given gifts are and to develop them and to utilize them. So I think that makes this a safe place.
And I know that there's going to be those right now that they're like, oh, I was at this abusive church. Well, yes, there are bad apples. There are, and the thing is, I've been a Christian since August 3rd, 1983. And I can honestly tell you, I had never had the misfortune of coming across one of those bad apple churches in all these years. Okay, and so when it comes right down to it, there's not really that many churches. I don't know, maybe back in the 50s and 60s, culture was completely different. But coming to Christ in the 1980s and growing through the 1990s. I had never had the misfortune of coming across those bad churches, and so I would really hope that the people could realize that, because if you're going to completely cut off a segment of people because you came across some bad apples early on, well, guess what? You're going to have to lock yourself in a closet, because no matter what segment of the population you go to, there's going to be those bad apples. The question is, are you going to let those bad apples drive you away from the good apples, the people that would support you if you gave them the chance to? So
that's a good point.
Amen. Good preaching, brother.
So anyway, so do you two have anything else you might want to chime in about?
No, one thing I recognized early on, Jason, was your ability to write. And developed early on. You sent me something that you had written at Word of Grace, and when I read it, I thought, wow, this guy can write.
In spite of all the typos in it, you were able to overlook the massive amounts of typos and see that, and that was the Handbook of Christian Discipleship Recovery. Okay, still unpublished because I did quote a lot of material from other sources, and I can't figure out how to contact those original sources to get permission to use. So I guess I could publish sections of it, like my life story, but there's other parts, that unless somebody explains to me how to contact the copyright owners in order to get permission to use these quotes, it will forever remain unpublished. But anyways, that's a really good example of, because I was back in 2015 when I went to Voc Rehab, that they did a thorough testing of my abilities, and they tested me as having a 6th grade reading and writing skills. Okay, and it's so the spelling and grammar checker of Word does cover up a lot of that, but it can't cover up all of it. It's so that's a.
That shows that you can't always rely on tests.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many variables that could come up as to how one takes a test, and so you shouldn't be defined by tests. Instead, have hope and work on your gifts and the things that you enjoy. You enjoyed writing, you enjoyed interacting with people, and so as you go in that direction.
And another thing, I don't think that percentage is much different than the broader population, whether you're talking neuroatypicals or neurotypicals. The bottom line is the average person in the United States does not have a very high reading or writing competency.
Mm-hmm. It's so. I was going to say something, then I forgot what it was. Going along. As far as what I like to do, I love to absorb information, analyze that, and then come up with a more advanced understanding of that information, and then disseminate that understanding to anybody who wants to listen. Whether it's writing, which is actually a more cumbersome means of communication, or preferably, like we're doing right now, verbal dialogue. That's how I learn. That is using this type of a format where we're just chit-chatting. If we had an outline, we'd go off an outline, which would be beneficial. But the thing is, you would put in the outline bulletin with all those blank lines for people to write in. Some people learn that way. I never filled out any of those because it's actually a distraction for me to try to write while listening, and so I just simply listen, and that's how I learn, and so. But I know other autistics, they are bookworms, they'll read an entire 500-page novel in 2-3 weeks. That's not me, and so anyways, so.
I think that the takeaway from our conversation, as it relates to your experience and our experience, is that nobody should be held back and feel like there's artificial limitations placed on them because of whatever their history may be, whatever their diagnosis may be, whatever their gender or race or family of origin may be. Because God, like Sharon said, has given each of us gifts, and the purpose of the church, among other things, is to help people come into the expression of those gifts and be effective and fruitful in their lives for the glory of God. And we've seen you follow that path very effectively.
Well, thank you. And so, so hopefully I can get more people that are part of my road to success to do more interviews like this. I already have a couple of takers. I just need to arrange it. This coronavirus is really making the easiest things a lot more difficult, and but nevertheless, it may take several months to do what would otherwise be done in 2 or 3 weeks, you know, if we could actually meet face to face. But I'm going to get as much of these done as I can, you know, with people who are interested in doing this. And I definitely appreciate all of your input. And so then starting starting day after tomorrow, June, whatever it is, third Saturday of June 2020. Yeah, I'm going to be you know, starting a series of getting autistics jobs and off-public assistance, which is going to basically lay out a roadmap that others can follow, and if nothing else, at least improve their quality of life. Even if they can't necessarily attain 100% independence, just improving your quality of life by even a notch or two, as far as I'm concerned, is worth it, you know. And so it's going to be a 3-part series, unless I go long, and then it could be a 6-part series. But that's what happens when an autistic leads a discussion, you know. So we'll see how long it actually lasts. So anyways, so hopefully.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's been a pleasure talking with you, and we wish you the best in your endeavors.
And same with you too. And I'll chat with you guys another time. You're just right up the street from me. And even though I no longer go to your church, every so often I'll pop in there and let you know what's going on. And you still, you know, will give me a little help every now and then when asked for it, such as you know references when I was applying for jobs. You know, will you say something nice about me, Sharon? Yeah, you know, that's actually how how I approach Sharon. So I need 3 people to say something nice about me. Can you say something nice about me? So anyways, so yeah. So
Something nice about you.
So with that, God bless and have a nice day, week, month, year.
Amen.
Amen.